with reactions to the fact that in just 2 hours, the African Democratic Congress will officially kick off its planned convention at the Rainbow Event Center in Abuja, despite the party's allegations overnight that the venue was pressured by the Federal Capital Development Authority and FCT Minister Nyesom Wike to cancel the booking. Now, in an unexpected dramatic ex-post at 11:18 p.m., where under normal circumstances the party should be planning, strategizing for the day ahead, the party spokesperson Bolaji Abdullahi wrote on X, after paying all the fees required, setting up for a convention, the owner of Rainbow Event Center has just informed us that he has come under pressure from the FCDA and Minister of FCT Nyesom Wike that if he allows the ADC the use of his facilities, his license will be revoked. But we've already signed the contract. We will hold our convention as planned at the event center, and we will not bow to this creeping tyranny, and definitely not to this petty tyrant. Now I'll take 2 quick reactions. One from John on X, who wrote, a whole event center owner is being told his license will be revoked if he allows an opposition party use a facility they already paid for. This isn't governance, this is intimidation, and it's a very dangerous sign for a democracy that's already struggling to breathe. Then you have Cletus, who said, if this is true, then it means political power can now override signed agreements. What message are we sending about the rule of law? Now, so the party and its members pushed on regardless, posting videos on social media of the setup to make sure that everything was ready to go for today's 12 p.m. start time. And according to the ADC, even the party's leaders stayed at this venue overnight and plan to stay there until after the convention. Now, neither the FCDA nor Wike's office have put out an official response to Abdullahi's claims, but this is just the latest twist in a number of challenges that the ADC says it's faced in trying to hold this convention. Remember, earlier the party had claimed that requests to have it at Moshood Abiola Stadium and Eagle Square went unanswered. But Wike was quick to dismiss those claims. Here he is on Monday telling the press during an inspection of ongoing projects that no request was formally submitted.
Okay, so that they talk about Eagle Square. Nobody, not one, wrote any letter to use Eagle Square. I called the GM the of absence. That's nothing like that. There's no way we do not go collect revenue from that. You have to pay, and nobody had written to us.
Wike is basically saying, I've never seen any letter, but we do have a picture of that letter because the ADC posted it on social media, and I think we can just put it up now. Here's the letter that, this is their proof. They have the receipts. So Dr. Abati, on all of this, I will come to you, because is this just a case of politics as usual, or does this feel any different, what's going on with the ADC?
Okay, let's just stay with what we know. What we know is that ADC says it will go ahead with its convention, its congresses. They've already conducted the congresses. Now, today is the day for convention. They served that notice since April 2nd. We had Kola Ologbediyan, the chairman of the Media and Publicity Subcommittee of the convention, who said INEC was served the required by law 21 days notice, and that whether INEC shows up or not to come and monitor his convention is totally immaterial. So you have a note of defiance in that regard against the background of the differences as to the interpretation of the orders of the Court of Appeal on March 12. Now, the issues at stake now, beyond that, the venue. Now, Ologbediyan, when he was on this program a while ago, he also said they had problems getting a venue. The people were giving them excuses here and there. In fact, at one venue, they were told they were working on some things for 2 days, so that the place would not be available. The Eagle Square. Now, Minister Wike said he didn't get any letter. But the ADC has since published a copy of the letter that they wrote directly to Minister Wike himself. Look at it there. It's addressed to him. And that the letter was received the same day and acknowledged. which is what is showing 7th of April on that top right hand corner of the letter that is on the screen. Meanwhile, Minister Wike says ADC is just looking for public sympathy. And my point earlier on is that Minister Wike should go and investigate. Did the letter go to a wrong office, as I heard? Is it possible that the people working in his office will not know the location of the office of the minister? Is there a Bermuda Triangle between the reception and his office as minister? Then if that is the case, he has to take a second look at the operational efficiency of the people who work in his office, because now it is the word of ADC against his. Now the other problem that ADC now has is, as pointed out, that the owner of Rainbow Event Center yesterday evening by 11 p.m. said he will not grant them access to the venue because he does not want trouble, and that he was under pressure not to allow them the use of the venue. But in a statement issued by Waziri Atiku Abubakar and the statement made by Dino Melaye when we were conversing with our correspondent Friday Oloko, who is at the venue, Dino Melaye clearly made it clear that no Jupiter can remove them from that venue because they have signed a contract, they have paid, and that this is the venue that they will use. Well, maybe the owner of the premises doesn't have an option in the matter, but what if the generator stops working at the critical time? What if other facilities are not available? Because these are Nigerians. The man may be afraid. He may not want to be accused of not paying ground rent or owing money or whatever. But it just shows you the kind of pressure that opposition political parties face. As for the velodrome at the National Stadium, maybe Minister Wike was right in that regard. He said he has no control over the National Stadium, that's the National Sports Commission that is in charge of that venue. But the allegation by ADC and other opposition parties is that the opposition is not being allowed to thrive, and they are entitled to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, and freedom of association. So I think this is still, I guess, a developing story.
Yes.
It will soon be 12 o'clock. They started preparing the venue only this morning. Will they be ready by 12 o'clock?
They're ready.
Are you sure that...
Friday has sent pictures.
No, they are still arranging the seats.
No, he sends pictures of everything. All set. They are fully set already.
So we'll keep watching the development. But we just want a free space for all shades of opinion, affiliations to contend, so that there will be a level playing field, and this election can be seen to be free, credible, and fair.
And balanced.
That's an nice invention. That's not part of the literature.
Exactly. And as we talk about the ADC, let's look at another thread, because there are questions now around what comes next for former Vice President and current ADC chieftain Atiku Abubakar, with a faction of the ADC in his own home state of Adamawa publicly announcing his suspension from the party. Now, the suspension coming on Monday during a press conference held by the factional chairman in the state, Raji Zumo, point blank blaming Atiku along with the former secretary to the government of the Federation, Babashir Lawal, for causing disunity in the party. Let's watch.
Of the ADC in Adamawa State hereby announces the immediate suspension of the following individuals from the party. 1. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Waziri Adamawa. Engineer David Baba Lawal, Vice Chairman Northeast. Barrister Sadiq Ibrahim Dasin, Transition Committee Chairman. Those individuals are suspended for their roles in fostering disunity
disunity. Well, as one of the names called to be suspended, Babashir Lawal, who's the current vice chairman of the ADC in the Northeast, then came out to essentially say there's nothing to see here, saying the suspension we just saw was brought forward by a group of, quote, Indian hemp smokers and should be disregarded altogether. So in a statement yesterday, Lawal reportedly said, and I'll read from that statement, Raji's actions demonstrated the power of Indian hemp against young men. What is his position in the party in Adamawa State, if not the influence of drugs? Raji was my deputy before he disappeared to an unknown place, only for him to resurface on social media on Monday, suspending our father, Atiku Abubakar. Now, for context, the ADC in Adamawa has been in the throes of a crisis for the past year over party leadership, with 3 different factions emerging. And in a lot of ways, Aya, it's almost a microcosm of what appears to be happening within the party. Every day, another faction, a suspension. What's going on?
So is this a 4th faction? Because we know currently at last count there were 3 factions: Senator Bala, Gombe, Dumevi Kachuku, and Senator David Mark. I don't know who this Mr. Zumo's faction is.
It belongs to a faction in Adamawa, where they have 3 sub-factions.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. They have 3 sub-factions. This faction, under which national faction is under, factions and sub-factions, it's a funny matter, but it's so sad. Yeah. It just shows the state of opposition parties, and that's why we often say that while we talk about what the allegation of the influence of the ruling party on opposition parties are, there's still also the conversation around internal democracy within the parties themselves. In fact, if the ADC is allowed to follow through and have its convention, I believe that there are bigger concerns around what is happening within the party and elements working within the party, whether sponsored or not sponsored, who are working against the party. So the ADC has a big challenge on their hands. This gentleman, Mr. Zumo, said that these individuals were suspended for fostering disunity, creating parallel structures, undermining lawful. Which authority, which structure, and disregarding a subsisting court order? Under whose authority is he speaking? Under who elected him? What is his status in the party? I think it is leaving Nigerians more confused as to what is going on in the ADC, and that's why beyond the convention and this show, I don't even know if I should feel sorry for them that they are fighting battles on many levels. But they say that the enemy of a man is the worst enemies are enemies within his own house. That is even worse, and we can see that as it's been the playbook with the PDP, with the Labour Party, there are personnel or people that are sponsored within the party to cause disunity and just for it to be dysfunctional. And when this happens, as we've seen with the example of the PDP, it is the beginning of the end of a political party to even organize itself well enough to present at an election. So whilst you're grappling with court cases, you're also grappling with people. By the way, I hope that Mr. Lawal has proof that this man is smoking something, because he can be sued for defamation, because he has to show us not about this is not true. It feels like that the man is under the influence of something and he came out to actually say that. I can't even say it. I'm not repeating what he said, but all I'm saying, like, he might have to defend it if the man does go ahead to sue him for very strong language, because if that's the case, I believe it's a criminal offense. I don't think it's legal to smoke certain things so it can actually come into trouble. But I just want to say finally on this matter that we see the fragile nature of our democracy. You cannot have a thriving democracy if you do not have strong oppositions, and as we've often said, strong systems. And if we cannot get internal democracy right, or the coming together, maybe it's even the way that the ADC was coupled together, that is why they have all these challenges. I was reading the article in This Day Lawyer by Onikepo Braithwaite, one of her, and she was talking about recycled leaders, and that's one of the challenges we have, whereby if you look at everybody in the ADC, they are from somewhere. It's a special purpose vehicle from people who are disgruntled from other parties or didn't have a platform in other parties, and that's why it's difficult for them to gel, because someone is square, another is circle, another is triangle, and they're just coming together and the heads are knocking. And I think it's quite sad for the Nigerian people at most, because there's no opportunity for a vibrant debate and vibrant contest for 2027.
Be careful with that line of analysis. That was the same line we told in 2014. We said APC, the collection of strange bedfellows,
but they came out.
They will sort themselves out.
Okay, I mean, I'm not saying if they sort them. And thank you, Dr. Abati, for drawing from precedents that it can work. But Dr. Abati, even the APC, they are saying that it's because they're in power now. If push comes to shove, they also have internal issues, but they've been able to sort it because you're in power, they'll settle you one way or the other. But they themselves, if left to the elements, also have issues. We had Senator Susp yesterday. There are issues in Benue State as well. There are issues in all these states, but there's a way that the center calls them to order because they're in power. So all of them, when you have people like that come together, there will be bound to be issues, and that's why maybe we need to elevate our democracy and even the opposition parties.
And at the end of the day, it's the people that essentially have to sift through all of these factions and the confusion to make sense of it for themselves.